An empty house, a door that moves without a hand to touch it, and a silence that feels alive. When I decided to explore an abandoned building, I had no idea what was waiting for me inside. This is a creepy, true abandoned building horror story. It was only a couple of years back when this happened in my town. There was a house that had sat abandoned for almost 20 years. It was tucked deep into the trees, forgotten by everyone. Nobody wanted to buy it, and eventually, people just stopped paying attention to it. The woods slowly grew around it, covering it up until it looked like it had been swallowed by nature. I'd always had a strange curiosity about places like that, old and rotting, but frozen in time. So one afternoon, when I had nothing else to do, I decided I'd finally check it out for myself. I grabbed a small backpack and a flashlight and set out on foot. Normally, I'd ask a couple of friends to come with me, but since this place was close and seemed less interesting than some of the other spots we had explored, I figured I'd be fine alone. The path to the house barely looked like a path anymore. The gravel driveway was buried under tall grass, and tree branches hung so low they almost blocked the way. I pushed through, and eventually I had to take out my flashlight, even though it wasn't dark yet, just to see clearly through the thick cover. The house was further into the woods than I remembered. I walked for what felt like 5 or 6 minutes before I finally saw it. It was an old wooden house, clearly built long before garages were common, and it looked more like a big 2-story cabin. I went up to one of the front windows, which was broken, and leaned my head inside. I stood there for a good 30 seconds, listening carefully. I didn't hear a sound. Convinced it was empty, I moved toward the front door. The door was unlocked, already cracked open just a little. I pushed it wider and stepped inside. The smell of decay hit me right away. Everything was falling apart. What unsettled me most was how much had been left behind from whoever used to live there. In the living room, there was still a couch, ripped apart and covered in dust. Picture frames had fallen from the walls, some shattered across the wooden floor. It felt like I had walked into a snapshot of the past that had just been left to rot. I looked around the first floor for a few minutes, scanning everything with my flashlight, wondering who had lived here and why they had left so suddenly. But it didn't take long before I had seen it all. The place wasn't that big. I decided to head upstairs. The staircase groaned and shifted under me with every step, and I was half expecting it to collapse at any moment. At the top, there was a narrow hallway with 2 rooms. One door was cracked open, the other tightly shut. I peeked into the open room. It was completely empty. No furniture, no cleater, nothing. It was strange compared to the downstairs, where everything had been left behind. I stepped in, sweeping my flashlight across the walls. That's when I heard it a loud thud from directly below me. My heart started pounding instantly. This didn't sound like the random creaks of an old house. It sounded like something or someone was moving. I froze, listening, but the silence that followed made it even worse. My stomach sank. I didn't want to wait around to find out what it was. I hurried back down the stairs, my flashlight shaking in my hand as I searched every corner. The house was dead silent again, but the feeling in my chest was screaming at me to get out. I remembered the rule me and my friends always stuck to. The moment anything feels off, we leave. And I wasn't about to break that rule, especially not while I was alone. I moved quickly down the hallway, sweeping the beam of my flashlight in every direction. When I reached the front of the house, My blood ran cold. The door I had left wide open was now closed, completely shut. I rushed to it, grabbed the handle, and pulled. It didn't budge. It was either locked or bolted shut from the outside. That's when the panic really hit me. Someone else was here. Someone had locked me in. I didn't waste a second. I sprinted to the broken window I had checked earlier and climbed out as fast as I could. I hit the ground and took off into the woods. My flashlight was switched off, and I stayed off the path, weaving between the trees as fast as I could. My chest was tight, my heart slamming against my ribs. That's when I saw something ahead of me. A flicker of light, not a flashlight, red and blue, flashing in the distance. I ducked behind a tree and watched. At the far end of the driveway, 2 police cars were pushing their way through the overgrown grass, heading straight toward the house. They didn't even notice me as they drove past. They just went straight to the front door, lights still flashing. I stayed hidden, frozen in place, my instincts telling me not to move. But after a minute, I turned and ran, heading home as fast as I could. My heart didn't slow down until I was far from those woods. In the weeks that followed, I kept looking for news about that night. Anything about why the police had been there. But nothing ever came out. No reports, no articles. It was like it never even happened. I still don't know what was going on in that house, or who else was in there with me. All I know is I was lucky to get out when I did.